Hello and welcome to Sunday's edition of Wardy's Waffle. Hope everybody's had a good week. We haven't done much on the land here at all this week because of the weather, but I'll touch on that at the end, but hopefully another week we will do. So what have we got in store for you this week? Well, you might be able to just see out the window here over my right shoulder. We've got some sheep in the field, and this is a local guy who a lot of the local farmers use for putting putting sheep on cover crops. So we've look at that and actually talk to the guy as well and have a chat about sheep. Also, we go to Farrell's. I know Telematics isn't new to quite a lot of you, and for those non-farmers who are listening, Telematics is sort of a system you'd look at to monitor all your machinery. Haulage companies have had it for a while, and some farm machinery has had it for a while, tractors, and some farmers have been using it, but it is new to us. So I go to Farrell's and we get the app set up on my phone, on my iPad, and we can look at a huge amount of data and various things that the 8RX and any John Deere equipment we might happen to have in the future does. So that's really interesting for us because of all the record keeping that I've been doing over a number of years. It's going to make it hopefully easier and we're able to get even more finer detail of things. So we take a detailed look at that. Also in London early on in the week, Rhonda and I went to a memorial service of a hugely influential guy in agriculture. So I'll take a bit of a look at that. Probably the most influential person that has been around UK agriculture for a huge number of years. So paid our respects to him. And also went to an NFU sugar beet meeting this last week. So take a bit of a look at that and some of the stats to come out of that. Anyway, that's it for me. So let's go into this week's update. Hope you enjoy it. Please click like, subscribe and the bell icon to alert you when I post my videos, which are every Sunday morning at 8 AM and occasionally midweek ones as well when there's a lot going on. So without any more from me, here we go. Oh yes, and also we've just had this week a bad case of fly tipping on the edge of the village, which I'll take you a detailed look at that, which of course that's one of those things that really does infuriate me and I know other farmers. Anyway, here we go. Rhonda and I have just come to London. We've got the memorial service of Lord Plum, Henry Plum, who was an unbelievable person. He died a few months ago. He was a past president of the National Farmers Union, and this is a memorial service. He did so much for the industry and so much in Europe. So we've got a lot of people here for the memorial service, which will be just great to pay our respects to Henry and Lord Plum. And what a building. Fantastic. We just now come back after the service for reception, and I think we're in the Chartered Institute for Civil Engineers, just off Westminster Square, Parliament Square. And just look at the decor in that roof. And I just hope Rhonda doesn't get any ideas for those chandeliers in the hallway of the new house. I'm just with Les Baker, who's the guy who a lot of local farmers here have some sheep with, and we've got some sheep now on our light land up on the heath. And we've had a cover crop, bit of a mix we put in of vetch, phacelia, some rye and oats I think was in here as well, and no, radish actually, sorry, it's some radish. And we've just got these sheep on here and Les has just moved them, but we're just saying, Les, there's quite a lot of bit here that even though we've moved them, there's a lot of feed left.
Yes, well, due to a wet night and a wet day yesterday, they haven't cleaned up, so I've moved them onto dry ground.
Yeah, which is this behind us, which we'll have a look at in a minute. And how long have they been on this patch here, Les, that we've just moved them from?
6 days on that,
yes. Yeah. And how many sheep you got here?
423.
423, right. So we'll just turn the camera around and have a look at the sheep and the cover crop and learn a bit about these sheep. And what breeds have we got?
They're Heinz variety. There's several different breeds. There's Suffolk Cross Mule.
Yeah.
There's the Mule.
So which one's that?
The black Q here.
The black face one. Yeah. Running to us there. There we go. That one. So that black face one.
Yep.
Yeah.
She's a gimmer. She ain't lambed never. Not yet. No.
Right.
And this one here is a Texel.
The white face one,
is a Texel.
Coming towards us. That, you can see that, quite a broad head.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's some Charolais in here somewhere. I don't know.
And Charolais, I never knew you had Charolais as a breed of sheep. I know you do have cattle.
No, they're Charolais cross.
Right.
You cross them with a Texel.
Yeah.
and they make a fine breeding ewe.
Right.
Quality lambs.
So where are the Chevrolet? Where are the Cross? Which ones are these?
There's one down there. Which, that red dot, no walking.
Oh.
Yeah.
Now walking, that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, she's sharper faced. This is a broader face.
Yeah, you can see that.
And she's a sharper face.
Yeah, that one with the
Yes.
red dot. Colours on them and the marks, that's not the crown from the top.
No, it's the farmer's individual markings.
So you've got 2 or 3 different farmers' sheep here?
There's 2 farmers' sheep.
2 farmers' sheep,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Well, they're all very content. So looking at cover crops, obviously we've got a mix here, as I've said, of vetch, phacelia, radishes and some rye. You can just see various, and there's obviously a bit of self-set wheat here as well, but they're eating everything. What's this like feed-wise compared to stubble turnips? Still not as good?
No, we're not as good as stubble turnips. But
No.
this is ideal for breeding sheep.
Yeah.
You know, just ideal. I mean, stubble turnips are best for fattening. you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. But they look very content here.
Yes, they're very happy, aren't they? You know.
Yeah, and of course it's light land as well. You can see the soil there through those weeds there. You can see it's light land. I'll stand the sheep on this time of year because this field's coming sugar beet in the next crop. So these sheep will be on here. What, Les? It's 32 acre fields. So they'll be on here 3 weeks.
Month,
Bit more,
yeah,
month,
3 weeks
yeah,
to a month.
3 weeks to a month,
Yeah.
and then possibly because there's still some feed left on them, we actually maybe Les might put them back on it to try and eat up what they've left. But it really wants a bit of a rain on it to wash through with the sheep droppings and things, and just wash some of the wheat off and just make it a bit better for them to eat. But we're going to solo this land probably in January time, and then that'll be ready for sugar beet that will be planted next March. Les was just saying this one here coming up to the left of the black faced one, this is a nice Suffolk ewe, this one there.
That was our breed we used for many years, but I mean these days, I mean the butchers and the housewife like a fatter.
Les, about this Suffolk one, used to be a favourite.
That used to be everybody's favourite breeding ewe for fat lambs.
Yeah.
But recently we've all gone to the Chevrolet and the Texel. Of course, we always use the mule ewe. Here's a nice mule ewe. Yeah.
This one with the blue.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. But I mean, things changes, and you have to go with the trade, really.
Yeah, that's right. Saying Les and I walking across here, when you start to look at it, the amount of goodness. Look at the sheep droppings there, and the amount of goodness that they're putting into this soil. And of course, there's all the wee as well that goes into it. So really, it's fertiliser going in, and it saves us having to put so much on when the next crop's grown. Talking to Les about the food, and Les was saying, when were you born, Les?
Just before the war.
Just before the war, and of course, in the world wars, we were food rationing, didn't we?
Yes, I mean I started helping on the farm with my dad. And my brothers, everybody else did.
Yeah.
We went to school 3 days a week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But now, I mean, we want to import it rather than grow it.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Well, it don't make sense, does it?
It doesn't make sense. And then you were saying as well, when it happened the last time, I don't know how many years ago that was, they said, never again are we going to be short of food, we'll make sure we're not. And then look what's happening.
Yeah. 1945, 1950, that was all the talk.
Yeah.
And that's when we started taking the hedgerows out and having bigger fields and growing
more food.
More food, yes, yeah.
And then now we're going backwards. Crazy. Just pulled up to a junction nearby where I've just been talking to Les. So it's on the heathland, about half a mile from where I live, and I've just spotted some rubbish that's been fly tipped, and I'll just show you. It's just ludicrous. This makes you so cross. Just see there in the distance the white. There in the field gateway, it's a minor road through there. It used to be a public road, but when the Leaden bypass came, they made it a minor road, and it's just now farm track down to some fields. But there's the fly tipping. We're going to have a look. So just drive down now this track, just gets a few of my fields. It's not my fields, it's my cousin's fields, but oh, look at this. Builder's waste now in this gateway. Just carry on driving down here. You can see that's Leaden bypass at the end, and here's this other heap. You can see what this is. Somebody's doing some block paving on a drive. That's what this is. These are the cut-offs from that. Sand, bit of waste from there. You can see the bricks have been cut. More block paving. It's the same builder, this will be, who's going around doing drives. Whether it's a builder or whoever it is, it's somebody obviously who doesn't respect the countryside. Just look at this mess. It's getting worse. Long Eaton model aircraft. So somebody here is into model aircrafts. They've got some trophy for it. Look at this. Makes you so cross. This is just typical of the issues we have to put up with here in the countryside. This is the same site that 18 months ago we had the huge fly tipping that was this lorry load you can see now, and that was on just a huge scale. This is the same location. Just look at it. It's unbelievable that we have to put up with this sort of crime in the countryside. We have it all the time with hare courses. We've got this fly tipping constantly happening all over the place. I just wish the government would realise what is happening into our fantastic British countryside, because it's becoming an absolute tip. We have so many regulations in farming that we have to stick to, more coming along all the time. We're constantly told that the environment needs caring for, wildlife needs caring for, and we have to do different things now to farm and produce food. Yet this is allowed to happen on this sort of scale, and the government just turned a blind eye to it. The Environment Agency turned a blind eye. We need more action on this sort of thing. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Makes my blood boil when you see this on the type of scale this is in our beautiful countryside that we are told to look after. I've just come to a Farrell's, our local depot just near me, where we got the RX from, and I've just got my iPad here and going through the John Deere Ops Centre on my phone to get all the things set up and understand where we can read all the various settings on the 8RX and the fuel and all that sort of thing. So, and have a bit of intuition on it. So we'll see how we get on. So Bert is just setting up and finding the app in the Apple Store, and that's our farm on the screen. What's it called? My John Deere or John?
My John Deere Operations Centre.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Anything to do with fuel usage or data usage.
So which one's this you say? This is
JD Link.
Yeah.
So this is just the JD Link app.
Yeah.
This is all the telematics data, so we can look back. This is sort of really, JD Link goes really in depth into all the little details.
Yeah.
So all about the utilisation of the machine, on sort of what you're using. So like on this one, we can see that he's using the auto track and the auto track turn automation.
Yeah.
Right down to sort of how many hours he's used the diff lock, field cruise, IPM, right down to how long he's been using spool valves for, engine temperatures, coolant temperatures, and engine loads. So what the engine's been under load. So you can see that he's only used it about half the time. He's used about half an hour. He's using it at 10.
So this way you can tell it on tick over as well.
Yeah.
Idle speed.
Yeah, idle speed. So we can go back up to idling. So machine utilisation in idle, working, and transport. So what sort of engine revs, what fuel rate he's using when he's in idle, when he's in working, when he's in transport. The fuel consumed that week. You say you just use it for the Monday, so you can see what fuel he's using whilst idling, whilst working, whilst transport. Back to last.
What location history?
Yeah, so we're going to last 30 days. So we can see we've got
where it's been
for the last 30 days. So 31st of October. We click on that one. Run for 5 hours and 24 minutes. And we can see exactly where he's been and which direction he's travelling in. So where he's been going. So we can do rewind this bar.
Yeah.
It gives us where the tractor's been, so you can see it disappearing. So we can look at 3 o'clock time.
Yeah.
And then you can see that it was at 3 o'clock. It was about 5 breeds into this field.
Into the field, yeah.
And then you can see where he's been across the field and what direction he's been travelling in.
Yeah.
And this is a tractor management pack.
Right.
So this pulls off data from the Ops Centre and JD Link, and we put it through Power BI into a report.
Yeah.
So you've got utilisation last month on here.
Yeah.
So your machine utilisation over the last month. We do a quick sort of carbon footprint report, which is produces approximately 2.62 kilos of carbon dioxide.
Right. I'm also just signing the PowerGuard document, and what is it as well, Adam?
And the service documents.
Service documents as well for the tractor. We've got 5 years on that. So this really covers us for 5 years.
This is extended warranty
yeah,
for the tractor.
For the tractor. Good.
So
in this section, look at parts.
So we look at parts for your tractor. So we can look at.
And this is the same system that your guys downstairs.
Yeah, it's exactly the same system. So you can look up parts. So look at window handrail, and then what it'll do is, because you're linked with us at Farrell Newark, it'll give you your availability and the price. So this railing in here is number 1, it's at the centre rail, and the price with the VAT, quantity, and then contact dealer for availability. Something that we don't probably have in stock, but you can add this to a cart,
right?
And it's sort of similar to Amazon. You just open that, so it opens up your operations center map. So obviously you've got your account and then the map. So all your fields on this. Oh no, it's not. That's what I want to do. All your fields on here.
And is that from when Ruben and Tom mapped the fields and you put them on?
Yeah, so these are all
a few weeks ago.
These are all the maps that Ruben and Tom did. They went mapped out the farm, and then obviously your equipment in there as well. So your tractor's in there. But if we want to have a look at any of these fields, so you got your speed, and then we obviously built the drill into the screen and the seed rate. Yeah. So you got an area, area that's covered, and then the seed rate that we plugged into the screen. It gives you a sort of total amount of seed that's been used. Yeah. Average speed, average productivity, working time. So that's time that the actual drill was in the ground. Total fuel used, average fuel rate. Yeah. Litres a hectare and then litres an hour.
That is about half the fuel of the quad track with the same drill on the back. So interesting.
You can see the variation in fuel usage. It's not really varied a lot. The yellow is 71, red's are 77.
That's litres per hour. Yeah.
Litres per hour. So this is fuel rate per hour. Obviously looks very dramatic being red, but red's just the top. Yeah. And then the green bits where he's been sort of in the corners or doing his fourth breathe around the head and where sort of overlap, where he's been using sort of down to 18. But yeah, going a bit faster, so 11k going down the hill. If we click and drag this box across to where he's been going uphill, we can see that he's slower, so he's 8.9, and he's using 77 litres an hour, so slightly more fuel obviously to go up the hill compared to.
It'd be really good if we could get the soil results on here, sandstone and clay content on here, and then you could compare the fuel used at various parts of the field, because where it's obviously clay or soil or silt, you'll be using more fuel there than on the sandy area. Yeah. We've actually got Field View linked into this as well, which is the American system that we have in the combine for yield mapping. Sorry, Adam, you were saying?
And we've linked last year's combine yield maps into Ops Centre for now, and we can drag more in as and when it's needed.
Right, brilliant.
So obviously we've got clear climate field view on there, and there's about 120 other different companies that we can API connect to, so we can pull data between systems.
We've got the hillside field back on the screen. We had sugar beet, and we can actually do a fresh AB line, cultivation line. We can call it whatever we want, and then it can be sent to the tractor.
So JD Link was used a while back in a dispute over a car that had been clipped by a green and yellow tractor. Yeah. So it went into court, and the guy used the JD Link system to prove that his tractor wasn't where they said it was. So they looked up the JD Link report from that day for his location history, and the tractor had run for 18 minutes and never even left the yard. So that's
right.
fairly black and white colour.
Yeah, exactly.
It was never there.
I think it's interesting here is we're just talking about the turn automation, which obviously is self-explanatory, but it's turning the tractor on the headlands on its own, which was set up. But that field there was the first field that it wasn't. That was Tom turning manually. You've got a work rate there of 7.8 hectares per hour. But then if we go on to a field where we did turn automatically and have it set up, that has gone up to 8.6 hectares an hour. So your productivity and your work rate increases because your headlands are all done at exactly the same speed, same turn and everything. And one other thing just to point out here is we have recorded our performance and work rates for a long while, and that there is total time in that field. So we went in that field at 20:42, we came out at 22:40, so nearly 2 hours in that field, but that includes turning at the end and maybe filling the drill and everything, whereas actually time the machine was in the ground was 1 hour 15 minutes. But for costs, that 1 hour 15 minutes isn't truly reflective because that does not include turning at the ends of the field. So that figure on the left is the one to look at, but the idea here is to get that figure on the left, the 20:42 and 22:40 time, nearer to the 1 hour 15 minutes to get the gap narrowed down, because that means you're going to be more efficient. So very fascinating. That's it, finished here looking at this. Had a really cracking hour and a half looking at this ops centre and JD link, looking at some of the costs. There's going to be some really interesting comparison we can do here and just see if we can fine tune things and look at costs. One of the biggest things is the idling time and performance and trying to save fuel. So yeah, really interesting. So thank you guys, really fascinating couple of hours. So the A17 repairs have all finished now outside the farm gate. They started on I think it was September the 12th, taken about 10.5 weeks. They've gone down to a depth of 400 millimetres in places. And we'll just have a look at one or two of the jobs they've done, which you can't believe in today's age, with all the technology available, that they still can't do things properly. You can't believe though, they still can't get lines straight when it's a straight road generally. When you look down there, with all the technology available today, they still can't tarmac straight or put the lines in straight. We've got another situation just up the road that I'll show you in a minute, where there's lorries gone off regularly in the last 2 weeks since they've done it because they've narrowed the tarmac down. So you can see the amount of traffic that uses this road. Being a Saturday, there's not that many lorries on it, just one or two, but you can just see in a second with the lines and how they've narrowed this road off just there. See on this side of the road, nice straight-ish lines, and then we go across the other side of the road, and for some reason they've narrowed it off there, got this kink in it, and you can just see there where there's a lorry already been off it. Unbelievable, the millions of pounds this will have cost, but when you look at this here, unbelievable, they can't do a job properly. And this obviously is our farm entrance. We've already had a lorry go off here last night. So I wonder how long it'll be before another one of these walls is knocked down. For those of you who travel up and down this road, you might recognise it from this other way where we have our Agri iFarm board. And something else I've just noticed, they have tarmacked over our main water supply meter, and stop tap is underneath that dot. So they've tarmacked over it, marked it, but not done anything about it. So I've got this crop of sugar beet we've still got in the ground on heavy land that I mentioned last week. I think that due to varying reasons it's still here. Haulage was one of them. The harvester breaking down had a hydraulic pump, and obviously the weather's closed in as well. And but hopefully we might try and get this up this week. So we'll see on that. But yeah, the sugar beet meeting I went to this last week, quite an interesting one, organised by NFU Sugar, and I think we went through quite a lot of data and stuff. But I think interesting point was they went through drilling date, and I think the average drilling date for this area or for the sugar beet that goes into Newark factory was the 1st of April, which I thought were interesting statistics. All our sugar beet was drilled on one day because we had that 18-row sugar beet planting machine, sugar beet drill, putting it in the ground. And if you want to look back at my videos, this is the number of video when it was. So we'll have a look at that, and you can have a look at that and just see the drill running, or wait until this March when it'll be back. But obviously that's a contractor's machine we have for that. And also, so that was why it's still in the ground. So hopefully, we haven't had a lot of rain this last week, 2 or 3 millimetres. Hopefully next week talks of cold weather coming as well, and not a lot of rain. So hopefully we're going to get this out the ground, but fingers crossed with that. So yeah, back to this sugar beet meeting. We've also heard about the neonicotinoid seed treatment. This is the one that was sort of banned but had to come back, or we could get it back by special authorization from DEFRA if certain temperatures were met, and I'll touch on those another time because I'm not quite sure what they are, but there's monitoring done around the country, and I've got Nala and Frankie here. Monitoring is done around the country in January and February to monitor the mean temperatures, and aphids are the ones that brings the virus yellows in, and this is why we have these seed treatments, because virus yellows really do impact the crop. You can see here this crop was treated with neonicotinoids last year, and you can see there's no yellowing in it whatsoever, because that's the seed treatment, by the way, the neonicotinoid seed treatment. The aphids bring in a virus that the seed treatment really does a lot of control. You can apply insecticides as a spray after that, but it doesn't do as good a job as the seed treatment does. And also, of course, it affects other insects as well, the spray does, whereas the neonicotinoid doesn't. They said it's been seen to damage bees, but I've spoken to beekeepers and said no, it doesn't do. So, you know, we could nearly have a whole half an hour Wardy's Waffle looking at neonics. But that's the reason why we're looking at that, and potentially we've got to wait now for DEFRA and these three. We've got to wait for a decision which will come in by the middle of January to see if the conditions are met, whether we can have the neonicotinoids treatment back again or not. That's linked to air temperature, as I say. The colder the temperature, that kills the aphids, which of course then means there's not so much virus coming into the crop. So I'll keep you updated on that one, because that's quite an interesting thing to look at. At the meeting, we also, British Sugar went through the results of where we are in the campaign up to now at the factory. And the last time we had any sugar beet in the factory, which was about 3 weeks ago now, our sugars were 17.5 or 6%. But I do understand, because of the wet weather we've had, the sugars have dropped a lot, and the sugars now are only sort of around 16 or just over 16, which of course impacts the amount we get paid. We get paid on a 16% sugar basis. So when we have 17.5% sugar, that means we have 1.5% of that sugar goes towards another ton of sugar beet, but we don't actually have to take that sugar beet in the factory. So when we only have 16% sugar, obviously we don't have any spare to carry over towards another ton. So it does affect the amount we get paid for the crop, and obviously the yield we get from that crop. So that was an interesting thing to hear. They said also soil dirt tears have gone up, so the amount of soil that goes into the factory because of the rain we've had as well at lifting, that has also impacted on the crop as well. So altogether, quite an interesting meeting. Lots of stats we went through, also about pricing, and I'll just put this screen up now, this slide up now about the pricing structure we've got and the different contracts. It takes a bit of explaining, but I think at the minute we're going to be on, I think, around £27 a tonne this year, but then next year we're on to up to £40 a tonne. We also do get a local grower premium because we are so near to the Newark factory, only about 9 or 10 miles away, so we do get a premium of about £1.70 a tonne as well, because we're so near the factory, so that's good as well, being a local grower. Also, the area has had dropped a lot from the height. You'll see by this slide in 2018 it was quite high, and it's plummeted and plummeted because British Sugar haven't been paying enough, and it was on the verge of not having enough sugar beet for 4 factories to process it. So whether they were going to shut one factory down or close it temporarily, or just process on a reduced months, I'm not quite sure what they were going to do. But that's now the sugar beet's coming back up again because of the price. But I did put something on Twitter a day or two ago, and actually think, to be honest, pal of mine actually contacted me and slightly had a bit of a go, but tongue-in-cheek, and thank you, James, for that one. I do understand you've stopped growing sugar beet, and a number of farmers have stopped growing sugar beet, and probably because the area has plummeted, British Sugar realised that they have to start paying more for the crop, or else they're not going to get enough sugar. We already have to use cane sugar because there isn't enough in this country, produce enough sugar beet grown in this country, and I think that's part of the reason why we're getting £40 a tonne, because the area was plummeting. Anyway, that's enough for me on that about the sugar beet meeting. Really interesting, and yeah, good to catch up with other fellow growers. Anyway, I think that's it for now for this week's Wardy's Waffle. As I say, the sugar beet behind me, hopefully next week's video we'll get this lifted and get it out the ground, and it is going to go onto that sugar beet pad there. You can see the yellow concrete panels, big area of beet of concrete there. It's going to go on. You can just see by this clip, should hopefully hold it, but it will yield well, because it was a good field of sugar beet, this one. Anyway, without any more from me, thank you very much for watching this week's update. Hope you've enjoyed it. Please come back with any questions. And also I am going to be doing the visit to the sugar beet factory as probably two of my updates around Christmas and the New Year, so keep an eye out for those. And just remember, date in your diary, January the 26th, which I'll touch on again a bit more detail next week. Conference, Newark Showground, to discuss all the direct drilling results and look at carbon, fuel and everything else. And here we have Nala coming to say cheerio as well. See you next time.